everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Progress Vlogmas! I'm just kidding, I'm definitely not calling this video that because it sounds so stupid. If you're not familiar with Vlogmas, it's something a lot of lifestyle YouTubers do, and it involves filming their daily lives and then uploading that footage every day leading up until Christmas. These videos are supposed to be packed with seasonal wonder and also make people lots of money before the advertising rates drop in January. Now, as you guys know, I'm not a lifestyle vlogger or YouTuber, and I have no desire to be. My life is just not that interesting. But I do enjoy watching these videos, and I want to contribute in some way. So I've decided to post a progress vlog every week leading up until Christmas, which means you're going to get 4 in December. If you don't like my progress vlogs, then don't worry, because these videos are going to be going up in addition to a making of / tutorial video each week. That means you're going to get at least 8 videos out of me in December, and possibly even 9 if I have the motivation to edit something after Christmas. And if you're worried about these being too holiday oriented and you're not a fan of Christmas or holidays in general, then don't worry, because these aren't going to be that festive. Aside from the occasional Christmas headpiece making a feature in these intros, there probably won't be a lot that makes them specific to this time of year. So I hope you're excited about this. I always get a lot of positive feedback on my progress vlogs, so though it's a little nerve-wracking to be sharing so many in such a small frame of time, I really hope you guys enjoy it, and I'm excited to share them. Something I'm not so excited about is this particular video. I started filming this video back in October, and October wasn't a great month. I was struggling with motivational issues for my own projects. I was home alone for part of it. One of our dogs passed away, which was really tough. And I also had a commission that I took on that I spent 2 weeks in October working on. So it was not uncommon for me to go 5 or 10 days without picking up the camera, because I just wasn't in the headspace for it, and I had so many other things going on. And I didn't really get back into the swing of picking up the camera and documenting what I was doing until the very end of this video. So I don't feel like this video has a lot of continuity. I don't think I get a lot done in it, and I'm just not very happy with it. But this introduces all the projects that I'm working on in the next couple of progress vlogs, so I feel like it's important to start out with this one and to show you the earlier stages of those projects, so it will be all the more impressive when you see them finished. So I hope you'll bear with me through this one and enjoy it in spite of that, and if you don't, then don't worry, because I promise the next one is going to be a lot more exciting.
Hello everyone, so today is kind of crazy. I'm working on a whole bunch of different things because my parents are going away and I'm going to be home alone and responsible for watching the dogs. So I foresee myself spending the next week sitting mostly in front of the TV and doing a ton of hand sewing. So I'm trying to prepare as much of that as possible, and to do that I've been jumping between a whole bunch of different projects, including this 18th century Turque. I cut out the skirt yesterday from shanting, which is this big piece of material, and now I'm going to hem the edges by machine and then sew piping onto the edges. And the reason I'm not doing this by hand is because there's going to be a border of puff trim going around the edge of the skirt that will cover up all that stitching. And if I have time, I want to start on a new project, which is this simple Edwardian costume. I'm really excited about that project, but I just don't know if this is the best time to be starting on it, since I'm going to be so tied up in looking after the dogs. It's been a few days since I last filmed, and I just wanted to update you guys. What I've been doing over the last couple days is adding and making puffed trim for this 18th century skirt. So I got the skirt hemmed, and then I got piping sewn onto the edges, which I think I mentioned in the last clip. Then I gathered down strips of organza to make it look like little puffs, and I sewed that onto the edge of the skirt. Then I'm adding a few sequins just for a bit of sparkle, since the bodice is quite heavily embellished. Doing the puff trim is actually a lot faster than I was expecting. I thought it would take me like almost a week to make 5 yards of it, which is how many I needed for this skirt. But it only took me a day, and now I have to make 4 more yards of the trim for the petticoat and for the bottom. Hi guys! So I know you just saw a clip of me doing something. I can't remember what it was because that clip was filmed like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yesterday and the day before I kind of had to myself, but before that I spent 12 days furiously making a ball gown, which I took on as a commission, and that's why I haven't filmed anything. It's near the end of October now. There are 8 days left in October, and I really want to spend those 8 days getting a whole bunch of stuff pre-filmed. Usually in November, December, I work really hard and try and get a bunch of things wrapped up, so I feel more accomplished about the year. So it would be really nice to be able to do that without having to worry about editing and filming videos and stopping what I'm actually enthusiastic about working on. So I'm going to take this week to film as many videos as I can, and I have a list of them that I'll show you. see all of these. So yesterday I actually filmed a sequin tutorial and a fringe tutorial. I have the little samplers over here for that. So then today I have to film some close-ups of the various different materials I used and the various different types of sequins and stuff. But those are filmed. I actually cut out the skirt for my plaid 1830s project today. So I think I'm going to hem that today and sort of show you guys that process in a bit more detail. I'm also planning on doing a winter cloak tutorial made from a heavy wool with a pretty cashmere collar. I have materials for it in here. I'm going to use this bottom one for the collar, and then I've got this really pretty plaid wool. And I'm actually filming the process of making the pattern for this, so it can be a proper tutorial if anyone wants to make one themselves. That's just the base pattern. It's a partial circle skirt, and then it's going to get trimmed to be more cloak-like. So I'm actually feeling kind of excited about this, so I might work on this today. We'll have to see. Then over here I just have the skirt that I'm planning on hemming. And over here I have the 18th Century Turque that has some of that puff trim on it. So I'm really liking this so far, and I really want to work more on this month. I have another 18th century project in progress, which you've probably seen little clips of. And this is the skirt ruffle for it, which is finished. It just needs to be sewn onto the skirt, which I haven't cut out yet. And then this is the skirt ruffle that will go with the Turque that I just showed you the bodice for. As sleeves go, I got the shantung sleeves cut out, and then I will cut out the longer sleeves that go underneath these from taffeta and organza later today. As far as skirts go, I need to make the upper portion for this striped taffeta skirt and this organza and taffeta skirt, and they're both going to be petticoats for 18th century projects that you just see from the front. So they have really similar designs and patterns and everything. So I was just doing the math and figuring out how long I needed to make the upper panels to make it the right length overall. And in addition to that, I figured out how long the piece that will go over top of the petticoat needs to be for this project. So I'm going to try and get all of that cut out for both projects, and then I can use whatever fabric is left over and get the sleeves cut out, and I'll be all set. I kind of ran out of fabric when I was cutting out the petticoat, but it's okay because I could cut out all the front invisible panels completely from striped taffeta, and then for the very back panel, which should be hidden, I cut it out half from taffeta and half from cotton. And after cutting everything out, I have this much fabric left over. So considering I got 8 yards, I think, I cut that pretty close, but I did have enough to do most of what I wanted, so I'm happy with that. This is the 1880s costume, and the other day I got the lace ruffle sewn onto the bodice, and then I outlined the lace ruffle with sequins and beads that match the ones used on the skirt panel. And I've also completed the front panel of the skirt, which is very heavily embellished. I don't know how much you'll be able to see since a lot of the sequins aren't very vibrant against the background, but dozens upon dozens of hours of work went into hand beading this, and I'm really thrilled with the end result. And then at the bottom edge it has some lace trim which I embellished further, which matches the trim used on the front of the bodice. There's still a lot more to do on this project because the skirt is massive and complicated, and I've never made anything like it before, so I think that will be a challenge. But as far as handwork goes, I think I've completed 90% of it. Yesterday I also sewed together these striped panels for the petticoat and hemmed them and began sewing the ruffle onto the bottom. So that's currently downstairs, and I'm going to work on it later today, and if I get it finished then I will show you what it looks like tomorrow. So I just hemmed the top layer of sleeves for the Turque, and these are the short over sleeves, and there will be full-length sleeves made out of organza and taffeta that go underneath them, which is what I'm going to work on next. I just lined the corner of my ruler up with the hem, and then I drew around that to create a zigzag pattern, and I'm going to cover that with sequins later tonight, and then tomorrow I can attach piping and the beaded fringe onto the hem, and this part of the project will be done as well. So I'm excited to be able to move forward with this, and this will serve as a little hand sewing project I can work on tonight. So now I'm off to working on the front panel of the Turque as well as the organza sleeves. So the sleeves and front panel are cut out and pinned together. I still have to cut out the lining for these, but I want to make sure that they fit properly before wasting any additional material. So I'm going to sew these together, and then I'm going to work on what's on the floor, which is the petticoat slash skirt that goes with this project. Look at my beautiful skirt! There might be some assembly required. Once again, I didn't have enough fabric to cut it all out from the taffeta, so I cut it partially out from cotton, which is that thing sticking out there. But it won't be visible once the garment is finished, since the back will be covered by an overskirt and hide all of that. I just finished sewing the top portion panels together. I did make a few mistakes, but I think it's going to look fine in the end. And now I'm just going to pin the massive ruffle onto the hem of it. My sewing machine is having some issues. Look at how much it skipped. It skipped like a whole inch of stitches and it kept unthreading itself, and it did this all the way along the seam, which is really frustrating. This isn't really a structural seam since I'm going to be sewing trim over top of it by hand, so I'm not too concerned about that affecting the wear of the garment, so I'm not going to go over it again. But it's really frustrating, and I definitely have to fix my machine before sewing any more important seams, like anything to do with the sleeves that I was planning on working on now. It looks so funny on my dress form. It's just really roughly pinned on. I wanted to make sure that the length was okay, so it will look a lot less bulky around the waist once it's finished. The good news is that the length is okay, which means I can start adding the puffed trim right around where the ruffles are gathered. In fact, I just finished ironing the strips that I will use to make the puffed trim, so I can go ahead and do that. So I've been at this for around 3 hours. It's taking much longer than I thought. I'm almost 3/4 of the way done, but it's getting really pretty sunny up here. As you can see, it's starting to come through the window and blind me. And I have a bunch of stuff I want to get done downstairs today, in addition to writing a blog post and posting a video. So I think that should be my focus, and then I will come back to this later tonight if I have time, or I'll work on it tomorrow. It took me a while, but I finally finished, and now it's time to work on a cloak, which I'm making for a video. I want to get the lining pinned into it and sewn in, and then I can edit all of that footage and hopefully get it finished tomorrow. So I didn't finish lining the cloak, but I'm about 3/4 of the way done. I have everything pinned, and then I sewed 3/4 of the hem, as well as one side of the arm openings on camera, which gives me plenty of footage for the video, and I can finish up the rest tonight. So what I did was I just pinned the lining in, and then I whip stitched the bottom edge inward, and I also whip stitched the pieces around the arm openings inward. And I hate lining things. It's my least favorite part of doing anything, just trying to get everything to line up. I hate it. So it was not a fun process, but at least it's done. At last I have progress! So I finally finished sewing the ruffle onto the blue and white striped skirt, and I'm really happy with it. I think it looks great, and I'm feeling a lot more excited about this project than I was a while ago, because I can actually see progress, and that makes me want to make more progress, and that's a good state of mind to be in. In addition to getting this sewn on, I also finished my cloak this morning, and by the time this video goes up, I'm sure the tutorial on this will already be posted, and I'm pretty happy with how this turned out too. It was originally supposed to have a hood, but I had a lot of issues with the hood, so I ended up scrapping it and attaching a fur collar instead, and I love it. Other progress includes finishing up the embellishing on these sleeves. Or at least I thought I'd finished the embellishing, but once I tried them on, I realized they looked a little bit bland. The sequins aren't as noticeable when they're worn. So I'm debating about adding a couple more sequins and some pearls to them just to liven them up a bit, but I don't know if I love how it looks. So I might do one of the sleeves and then see and potentially rip it off and do something else. It just kind of depends. Yesterday, I also went ahead and tested out the organza, which I plan on using to trim the striped blue and white dress. So I figured out how many strips I'll need and how long they should be, and I'm going to get to cutting them out today as well. I got all the strips cut out, and I'm going to go downstairs and get some lunch, and then hopefully cinch the edges of all of these so I can start pleating tomorrow or even later tonight. Hi guys, so I've been working on lots of stuff today. I just forgot to pick up the camera. Last night I tried pleating the trim for the blue and white striped dress and it did not go well. So today I've decided to focus on the petticoats in this project and getting this wrapped up. So I started off by making the striped panels for the front, and now these are pinned in place and they're lightly boned so they will stay straight. So I'm going to sew these in and then sew across the bottom edge, and then I can add closures, and hopefully when I try it on it will fit. I don't know how much I've said about this, but it didn't really fit before, so I ended up adding this extension to the front, and now it's like half an inch bigger in the front, but it might be too big. I don't really know. I'm just going to try it on and hope for the best. I also got the sleeves sewn together. I haven't ironed them yet, and I haven't added lining, and I haven't turned the cuffs inward. So I'd like to get all of that done today, but it really just depends. And then I prepared the over sleeves for some hand sewing later tonight, and I just pinned the bias tape onto the hem to cover up all the raw edges. And speaking of this, I actually have some raw edges I need to hide on the blue striped bodice, so I think I'm going to make up more bias tape and get that pinned in, and then I can do that this afternoon as well. It's much later in the day, but I'm back to work on my 18th century petticoat skirt things, and I folded the top of the back edge inward twice so the raw edges are hidden, And now I'm just going to sew this down with whip stitches, and I'm going to do this process on this skirt as well as this skirt. So I just went ahead and turned the back edges of the blue and white striped skirt inward, and I also pleated and gathered the top edge. So now all I have to do is make the waistband, attach that, and then do up the back seam. And now it's almost time to go feed Gwen, but I will try and make a little bit of progress on the other skirt before heading downstairs. I did it! It looks pretty nice. Honestly, I probably should have just done this by machine since you won't end up seeing it. As you can tell, this portion is done on the fabric that doesn't match the rest of the costume, so it isn't going to be visible at all, but I will know it's hand done, and that will make me feel better about the finished costume. I don't know where my safety pins are, and I have to try on the sleeves with the pins near the wrist, and I'm really not looking forward to this. Hopefully it isn't as painful as I'm expecting it to be. The sleeve fitting was a success, and I managed not to bloody up my wrist, so I'm very happy with that. Now I just have to take those in, and then I can cut out and assemble the lining and hopefully get them finished today. I'd also like to get the waistbands on these skirts. I know I was going to do that last night, but I had enough hand sewing and editing to do that I decided I would do it this morning. So far today I've already gathered down the top of this, and then I pleated the blue and white striped skirt last night. So I'm ready to make both waistbands, and hopefully I can get them attached and the closures in and the back seams done up and get these guys done and dusted today. I cut out the lining, then assembled it and sewed it into the sleeves so there aren't any raw edges on the interior, and the cuffs are all nice and finished. And then I went ahead and added hooks and bars to the interior of the cuffs so they close nice and pretty. Then I went ahead and pinned the oversleeves on top, and now I'm just going to sew across this edge and attach bias tape, and then I can sew them onto the bodice, which is really pretty exciting. And I don't think I've actually shown you the bodice yet today, but I did get the striped front panel sewn in, and I also got all the hooks and bars sewn in, so it closes up. So I made the waistband and I sewed one side of it on, and now I have to hand stitch this edge to the other side to cover the raw edges. And then I also have to sew hooks and bars in. Hello everyone! So last night ended up being pretty productive. I got the waistband as well as the closures onto this skirt. And I did up the back seam, which still needs to be ironed, but other than that, this is finished. And then I repeated the process on the blue skirt, so it's finished as well. And with this done, I think I'm going to end this video. I'm sorry if this video is really all over the place. I'm sure I warned you in the beginning as well. But it was just so many different weeks and projects compiled into one video that it probably didn't make too much sense. Just between working on the commission, having motivational issues with my own projects, I don't feel like I accomplished that much. But I hope it seemed more productive in this video than it did in person. And I really hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed the various projects I was working on. As per usual, more information about them will be linked in the description box down below. And if you're interested in seeing how they turn out, then definitely check back next week, because I will have another video up in the same format, just hopefully a little bit more cohesive. And in that video I plan on finishing this project and hopefully making some more progress on the blue striped 18th century project, as well as the 1880s bodice that I showed briefly, and a couple other things that I'm planning on starting on soon. So definitely stay tuned for that, and thank you again for watching. I shall talk to you all very soon.